Welcome everyone to today's webinar for adoptive parents. My name is Kim King and I'm here with Heather Featherston, and we are excited to share more with you from Lifetime Adoption, and we're excited to spend this time with you answering the questions that are on your minds. We received a great number of questions in the registration. This is a quick Q&A, so we're going to cover the most popular ones that kind of share similar themes and overlap a little bit. And we just want to congratulate you for taking this step and joining in on this webinar tonight and investing time in learning more about adoption and learning more about lifetime adoption. In case you are new to getting to know us here at Lifetime Adoption, we are a licensed child placing agency and we help with adoptions nationwide. In fact, we have completed adoptions in every state across the nation. And Lifetime is Christian based. We started all the way back in 1986, so we are in 4 decades, 40 years now, thousands of families, thousands of lives completely changed by the grace and miracle of adoption and the way that God has worked to connect all of these birth parents and adoptive parents together for the good future of a child. And we're excited to have been the instrument in God's plan as we walk alongside every client and family and as they become part of our lifetime family, which is kind of what we call you when we're working together. You're part of our lifetime family. And if you are new to Lifetime, be sure to fill out your application if you haven't already done so. You can do that at lifetimeadoption.com. And there's no mistake in the application or inquiry phase of learning about Lifetime and getting to know us. And I like to remind families of that, or at least help them be aware that there is no mistake you can make at this point with us, because it's really about us being able to meet you where you are. And sometimes families say, well, we want to learn about adoption, but we're not quite sure it's for us. And we haven't made any official decisions about adoption yet. And that is totally fine. Heather and I both believe that it is so important to engage in conversation with adoption professionals and learn as much as you can before you're expected to make any decisions. How can you make a decision without that support and information? So that is why we bring you these free webinars, such as this quick adoption Q&A live tonight with Lifetime Adoption. And that is why we offer a free application at lifetimeadoption.com. Just as a reminder, if you are one of our families already in the Lifetime family, then this is not one of your exclusive private webinars that we give you twice a month. This is a free public webinar meant to help families who are maybe just starting to explore adoption and learn more. So yes, we are one of the few agencies that offers a free application. That is very rare these days. Most adoption professionals will charge a fee to consider you as a family that they'll perhaps assist. But here at Lifetime, we see it the opposite way. We want to get to know you first before we enter into that partnership together and agree that we could be a great fit to help you meet the needs that you have. So you'll see when you fill out the application, or maybe you just want to take a sneak peek at it, not ready to fill it out yet, but you just take a look at lifetimeadoption.com and there's a QR code on your screen. Maybe you look through that and just see how simple and straightforward the application actually is. We do ask you a couple of questions about your adoption preferences, and even if you're still learning about things, just answer those to the best of your ability, including all the information that it asks you about yourselves, mostly contact information and general demographic information, because what we're looking for is to assist families that really have the family structure and characteristics that we see that birth moms are drawn to and choose for their babies, and families who are open to a wide variety of cases that we actually see successfully completing in our agency here at Lifetime on a regular basis. And that is a good rule of thumb for you as well as adoptive parents. You want to work with an agency that sees the type of adoption you are seeking on a regular basis. You don't want to work with an agency where you tell them what you're hoping to find in your adoption and they say, oh, actually, that's the rare exception here. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the process, but I also want to remind you that you can give us a call at 727-493-0933, ask to speak with an available coordinator, and our team is happy to hop on the phone with you, answer some basic questions, and get an understanding of where you are in your process. And we also have our info packet that we can email to you. You can request that by emailing me, kim@lifetimeadoption.com, and I'll be happy to send you our information for adoptive parents. And if you are attending live on the webinar tonight, we're excited to have you right here with us in real time. You have the benefit of being able to type in your questions right now. There is a questions box that you should be able to pop out there in your GoToWebinar box, and you can type in a quick hello to me, or if you have any summer plans coming up. I can't believe we're already on June 10th today. Um, but do take a moment if you are here attending live. I would love to see you either say hello or just share whatever plans you are looking forward to this summer. And it can be something simple like looking forward to having, a slower schedule, maybe if you're a teacher, or looking forward to a trip you've gotten planned, or maybe you're already parenting, looking forward to doing some fun beach trips with your child, whatever it may be. Take a second to engage so that we know that you know where to ask questions. Your questions are always encouraged. Questions, comments, feedback, they all belong in that questions box. So we would love to
Mhm.
see that you know how to use that. So Heather, with that, thank you for being here with me tonight as we co-host this Q&A quick rapid fire. Well, I guess nothing's rapid fire with us, right, Heather? There's always like
That's
a
right.
layer of information behind it. But we'll go
That's
fast though. This will
right.
move
And
quickly.
you were talking about the questions box. Please, if we are talking about something and you have a question about whatever we're talking about, feel free. Drop your question in there. Asanya, I see you are looking forward to warmer weather. So yes, we are live with you here tonight, and we love these to be as interactive as possible. We have pulled the questions, as Kim said, that were kind of the most common, and some overlapped a little bit. So let's jump right in. So our first question here, how much does adoption cost and what expenses should we plan for? Now, I'll let you know before we answer, that's a big question right there. And we can give you general guidelines based on what we currently see.
Yes. And I also want to frame our conversation a little bit for a second. We actually work primarily with infant adoption, newborn adoption, because these are private adoptions. So this is not international adoption from another country, and this is not fostering to adopt where you're going to be a foster parent and hope that one day one of the placements becomes available to legally be adopted permanently by your family. So what we work with is private adoption, where the birth mother or placing parent or expectant mother is choosing adoptive parents for her baby, and she is voluntarily moving forward to make this adoption plan for the future of her child. So with that, there's really not a lot of government assistance. There is the federal adoption tax credit, which I'll mention, but to answer your question in a nutshell, average cost of private adoption in the US is approximately 45 to 50,000. And Lifetime falls right along the lines of that. And you'll see more information and more of a detailed breakdown when I send you our info packet if you want to request that, kim@lifetimeadoption.com. There is a whole team of adoption professionals that will be working with you to help you prepare for adoption, not just from an educational and supportive standpoint, but also literally helping you create an adoption home study with your background checks, home inspections, interviews, all the documentation. You need to create a profile that is presentable and appropriate for birth moms to see. And that is a very detailed process that we guide you through here at Lifetime. So you'll never be on your own with that. You also need to budget for legal expenses, and perhaps you'll be assisting with some of the birth mother's expenses, like maybe helping stabilize her housing, or her maybe helping with her copays if she's not on public assistance for that, or maybe some transportation, or to help keep her cell phone on. So these are all things that families pay for in adoption, and the total is usually around 45, 50,000 in our adoptions, generally under 50,000 in our adoptions. Now, there are many agencies and adoption professionals where the cost can be a lot higher than that. And with Lifetime's approach, we don't see our adoptions, it's not necessary for our adoptive parents to plan a $60,000 budget. But don't be shocked when you hear that from other adoption professionals, because they have a different method and a different approach. Likewise, if you are adopting from someone you already know, then perhaps you just need a home study and an attorney to help you. But also, I would hope that you're providing some really caring, non-judgmental support for birth mom and for yourselves to coach and guide you through every aspect of the adoption, because an attorney doesn't always provide that. So that would be how much adoption costs and what expenses to plan for. Your agency fee, your home study, legal expenses, and pregnancy-related expenses are those 4 expenses that we ask families to plan for. Now, when you receive your info packet, you'll see a sample budget. You'll see a couple of pages with detailed explanations of each expense to plan for and the actual range of costs that we see in those categories. So there's a ton more information in the info packet. Just be sure to send me an email, kim@lifetimeadoption.com. Let me know your first and last name and what state you're in. And if you want to share a little about yourself, that is wonderful too, so that I can understand where you're coming from and how I can best support you and point you in the right direction.
Great. So I'm going to keep going here because we have a lot to get through. And the next question is, how long does the adoption process typically take from start to finish? And, one thing that a lot of families are who are new to adoption may be surprised to learn is that in modern adoption, it is the expectant mother or the birth mother who chooses the family. So it can be very difficult to determine when a birth mother is going to see you and decide that you are the perfect family for her baby. So there really isn't a set time frame. It really varies. And the next, I'm just going to pull up the next question, Kim, because they really go together here.
Mm.
And that is, what factors affect how quickly we may be matched with an expectant mother? Um, every family sets what we at Lifetime call your adoption preferences. And that is what you are open to saying yes to. That may be the race of the child, the gender, the age, any prenatal substance exposure. If the mom smokes cigarettes, use marijuana, things like that. You set those preferences of what you're prepared to say yes to. And then with Lifetime's program, you are shown two expectant mothers considering adoption who that matches their their situation. And at the same time, those moms are asked, is there anything specific you're looking for in a family? So if there are, again, if she wants, we're looking here on the screen at an African American couple. If she wants an African American family, if she wants a family that, lives near the mountains, if she wants a family where, one of there's a stay-at-home mom, maybe she wants a family with kids or without kids, whatever she wants, that plays into who is presented to her for consideration as well. So if you just think of it in terms of opportunities to be chosen, the more broad your preferences are, the more opportunities you're going to have to be chosen. That is probably the number one factor that can affect how quickly you're matched with an expectant mother. The thing that moms talk about, which we talk a lot more about one in our informational meetings, which we are having one tomorrow if you want to learn more about
Ooh,
this subject. Yeah.
good
Um,
plug, Heather.
we when women are looking at families for their child and they're considering adoption, they are looking to make a connection. And that's one of the things Lifetime does is we work with you one-on-one to help bring out what makes you different and unique. They are not looking for Barbie and Ken. They are not looking for that Barbie dream home. They are looking at whatever you've prepared and seeing if there's a connection there. And like I say, we'll talk more about that tomorrow if you're interested in attending that. That's a 1-hour call. We talk a lot more about adoption and the process, the time frame, and birth mothers actually also. So, those are the things, broad preferences, and really put that effort into showing expectant mother who you are so that you can make that connection.
Mhm. And Heather, I'm glad that you did mention the info meeting tomorrow, and we hope that you will join us for that. I know we had several people already register for it. If you missed out on that, just go back to your email where we invited you to this webinar, and the link to register to that one is also there, but I can send it to you if you can't find it, just email me,
Yeah,
Kim@lifetimeadoption.com, and say, how can I get in on the info meeting tomorrow night?
yeah, great. So let's keep going here to our next question, which is, are there age requirements or age restrictions for adopting? Kim?
Mm. So, yes, there are age requirements, and some adoption professionals have age restrictions for families who are hoping to add a child to their family. So, you being the adoptive parents. Most states require you to be at least 21 years old. Most states have requirements that you be a certain amount of years older than the child that you are adopting, unless it's a relative. So if you are in your 20s and you're adopting a 17-year-old, you might not meet the requirement, right? But
Mhm,
most adults qualify to, as far as age, to adopt a
mhm,
newborn. Clearly, there's a huge
mhm,
age difference there. And when it comes to age limitations, I would say late 40s, early 50s is really kind of the where the window starts to close on time frame and age for a birth mother to choose a family for a newborn. Now,
mhm.
with a foster system, I think that they don't really have any age limits on that. They really need families, and if you qualify and can complete all their training and get the license, then I don't believe they have an age limit in that in that world of adoption, the foster system through your local county. But in
Mhm.
private adoption, there are a lot of agencies that do have requirements or limitations, such as 35 years old, 40, 45 years old, or a combined age of X amount. Here at Lifetime Adoption, we don't have an age limit. What we do, and this comes from our founder, Marty Caldwell, who is an adoptive mom herself, and that's how she started Lifetime. She started a little support group just to get everyone connected and networking together, and it grew and grew over these last 40 years into what we see today. And she wanted an agency where you weren't judged on just one characteristic, because she had a couple characteristics that when she would speak with adoption agencies herself as a hopeful adoptive mom, she was turned away and told she was too this or too that, or not enough this or not enough that. And she felt like that was not serving families well. And so when you fill out our application, there are basic questions that you will answer, but just know that we are viewing your application as a whole. There's not like oh, they're this age, so we can't help them. They're 48 years old, we can't help them. It's more like, hey, let's take a look at your other characteristics and what you're open to in your adoption. And I will say, as you get older, it's important to really try to be more open in preferences, because as Heather was saying, preferences matter, right? And we will look at everything as a whole. So there's not like a set criteria cutoff or a set list of criteria that we're reconciling your application against when you apply. So you should feel free to apply no matter how old you are, at least if you're an adult.
Well, and I pulled up the next question too, because again, it tied in, yet it's a little different. Can we adopt if we're
Mhm.
older than the average adoptive parent? And,
Yeah.
I think it's, Kim and I see people coming to adoption at all ages. We see a single mom coming who, just never found a husband that, met her criteria, and yet still wants to be a mother. We see couples who start young because they have known, one of them has known, as long as they've known that they are unable to have a baby naturally. We there's just all types of um, adoptive parents coming to adoption, and they are of all ages. And I would say that we have helped people, as Kim says, into their early 50s. It does start to be a little bit more of a challenge for when you think that the expectant mom is choosing. And we've had expectant moms tell us, they look like my parents. that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. It just really depends what they're looking for in adoptive parents. I think one thing that might be surprising tonight to families too, Kim, is that we work with expectant parents of all ages. In fact, I remember a few years ago we worked with a married couple who had two children who were both in college and had a surprise baby. Mom thought she was going through menopause, but surprise, she was. They called and wanted to make an adoption plan because they didn't want to start over. You know, they were on the cusp of a permanently empty nest, and they didn't see starting over really as something they wanted to do. They chose a family who was about 20, 25 years younger than they were, because that young couple hoping to adopt reminded them of themselves starting out. But
Hmm.
but by the flip side, we also see young 20-something expectant parents who, look at the older waiting couples as someone who has it all together and they seem more prepared. So every expectant parent is looking for something a little different, and that's why we really want to focus on bringing out what makes you unique and showing that you're, you know, active, and even if you're a little older than the average adoptive parent, that you're still young at heart and ready to keep up with a baby, a young baby or child.
And I will say that traditionally, and this is starting to trend differently, Heather, as I speak with families, but traditionally, most adoptive parents were in their 30s and 40s because they
Hmm.
took time to get their career off the ground, complete their education, start their business, get things in order on the professional side so that they would be where they wanted to be to provide financially for a child. And then they probably met a spouse along the way, got married, and then they saved up and bought a house. They traveled, they bought a house. They built a house, then maybe they needed to do some landscaping stuff that could take time. Maybe they renovated a house and they got everything picture perfect. And then they started trying for a baby. By this time, they're probably early 30s if you really think about it. And so then they try for a baby for 2, 4, 6 years. And now they're thinking about adoption. So that puts them in their 30s and 40s. And that was always kind of like traditionally the age and the timeline that we saw. But now we're
Hmm.
seeing more younger couples coming to adoption because they're quickly identifying challenges with infertility. And people are so much more aware nowadays of fertility, thank goodness, because it's more part of the conversation in our society where women are really comparing notes and giving each other tips, and there's more education, more access to resources on the topic of fertility. And it's a big topic right now. And so a lot of times these younger couples are identifying early on, I have a medical reason, a genetic reason, I've done genetic testing. We know that we have medical reasons why we need to choose adoption as the way we become parents. So that the way that looks has changed over the years. So just rest assured that, you know, you're probably pretty normal. You're probably not too old or not too young.
Hmm. Absolutely. So the last question we have here for this quick 30-minute call is, great way to wrap up. What steps do we need to complete before we can be considered for placement? And I think what this is asking is, what do we need to do to be ready to accept a child into our home?
Hmm. Yes. So the main thing is your home study.
Hmm.
And with Lifetime, we provide you with a home study provider referral. So because the home studies are state specific. So you have to meet your local state requirements to be approved for a home study. And those home study requirements include things like completing your background checks, a physical to show you're in good health to care for a child or that you have a plan to meet the child's physical needs if you have a limitation in that area. You're able to financially provide for the child. Not you're not, you don't have to have like, $1 million or anything, but you have to just be able to um, pay your monthly bills. They're going to look at your spending versus your income month to month.
Hmm.
And there are just some basic things that a social worker will work on with you through that process of completing your home study. And that usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks. Now, what most families here at Lifetime love is that we will work with you on creating your profile while your social worker is working with you on completing your home study. They both
Hmm.
take about 6 to 8 weeks to complete. So you can toggle back and forth between what Lifetime is asking and the revisions that we want on your profile development process and creating your video and everything, and then what your home study provider needs you to fill out or go do. And then those can all be done around the same time. In fact, at Lifetime, we're one of the few agencies that if your state allows, and all but 2 states allow it, we can actively present your profile to birth moms while everything is in progress. We actually offer a temporary profile for families to quickly fill out from the very beginning so that they don't ever miss out on an opportunity if that is what they feel compelled toward. And so they can have their temporary profile going out to birth moms that match mutually preferences with them, and they'll be working on their home study and profile in the meantime in good faith.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think, that really kind of uh, simplifies everything. Um, but but please know that Lifetime does. We have referrals, not just people we've looked up online. These are social workers we've worked with for years, some of them decades,
Mhm.
and have a close and very good working relationship, because that is very important in adoption. Adoption typically takes more than one professional. Um, you are going to have your home study provider. You are going to have legal. You are, like this couple we're looking at. If you're adopting from the hospital, you're going to be meeting and working with hospital staff too. And it's just so important that everyone is familiar and knows how to work together to support you, certainly, but also to support the mother of your baby, which, no adoption can happen without a mom there choosing and really, um, well, choosing to provide more for her baby than she can provide right now through adoption.
Mhm. And when you have these experienced adoption professionals who have a heart for you and a heart for a birth mom, and they know how to work together. So you have your social worker for your home study, you have your agency Lifetime Adoption, you have your attorney in the birth mother state or an agency in the birth mom state doing legal work and meeting in person to get signatures and paperwork filled out. And we're all in communication together. Lifetime would be the hub of your adoption. So we're the one
Mhm.
orchestrating everything between all of these professionals and the hospital staff, the social worker there and the nurses there. So we're all in communication. So what that allows is for you to be able to focus on these moments when there are specific steps you need to take, and you need to be able to support birth mom on that level as adoptive parents and let her know that you care about her and you have a concern for her well-being as well. And starting to come into your own as mom and dad as you receive that child placed into your arms for the very first time. And you are, stepping out in faith, and you have so many emotions and thoughts going on. And the last thing you should be worrying about is if your attorney or social worker or Lifetime knows what they're doing. We all know what we're doing so that you can focus on what this is all about, becoming a family, and
Mhm.
what this is all about, supporting a birth mom who is walking through a path to actually relinquishing a child, and has a heart to provide what's best for her child and wants you to be that mom and dad. So you get to focus on that beautiful aspect of your adoption process and becoming mom and dad, while we focus on everything else, all the other moving parts that you might not fully be aware of that need to take place
Mhm.
to help you have a safe, successful, secure adoption that will last a lifetime.
Right. And before we wrap up, I am going to get the webinar link for tomorrow night too, and
Ooh,
drop
good
that
idea.
drop that
Yeah.
into chat, because I know we've had a few people mention they're interested. I want to be sure to get you that information also, because we are going to talk a lot about um, expectant moms, and that's
Mhm.
kind of my heart for adoption is that. And I think it's just
Mhm.
so I mean, we never have these two calls back to back, one night after another, but since we are, I want to be sure to get that to you. So Kim, why don't you
Hmm.
talk a minute about the next steps
Sure.
while I get
Yes.
that.
So, and like Heather said, we have such a heart for birth moms, and my niche here at Lifetime is that I love, love, love helping prospective adoptive parents. Where you are in your process, I love meeting you wherever you are and answering the questions that are on your mind, helping to ease apprehension and also point you to your faith and knowing that God has a plan for you. And it's our responsibility to build out a vessel for those blessings to flow into that God has for you. So I love helping families step by step. And I'm very thankful and honored to be in this chair where I get to answer questions and help guide families and help provide them some relief, help with that burden a little bit, whether we are going to be your ultimate partner in adoption or we're here just as a stepping stone along the way to a different direction God may have for your family. But if you are wanting to explore further with Lifetime, if you're feeling right at home with everything that you've heard so far, you feel pretty at peace about what we're saying here at Lifetime, and you want to explore a little further, be sure to fill out the application at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. You can also just scan that QR code. It'll take you right to the start of the application. Now, the application actually only takes about 15 minutes to complete. And what you can expect is that within a few minutes of submitting it, you'll receive an automated email confirming that it did go through successfully. And then the following day, our team will actually reach out to you to let you know we've received your application, and they'll let you know if we are missing anything or we need clarification, or maybe we're prepping your application to be reviewed at that point. So once you apply, be sure to have great communication with us. Keep your eye on your phone, your emails, so check your voicemails, check your text messages, and be sure that your voicemail is set up and that your voicemail isn't full, because often we call and the voicemail is full. We do have the option to text you, so we'll try that as well. We'll try all the methods to reach you, but it's really nice if you can also value having that good, timely communication. So just heads up on that. You will be hearing from us after you apply. And you can call us 727-493-0933 for any questions. You don't have to wait to hear from us in order to get questions answered or to check in. And you don't have to wait for a scheduled appointment in order to have a conversation with us. In fact, you can also, right now, you can go to lifetimeadoption.com/inquiry, and you can fill out a little form to have a scheduled quick call one-on-one with us if you'd like to do that. So we appreciate you for being here tonight. Hopefully we will see you also again on the info meeting. We're going to be besties after we meet 2 nights in a row. And Heather, thank you for being here with us. Anything else you'd like to add before we close up our Q&A for tonight?
I think that's great. I did go ahead and drop that link so anyone can register for our virtual info meeting for hopeful adoptive parents tomorrow. It is at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we talk a little more about the steps in the adoption process. We talk a lot about expectant parents, including what they are looking for as they consider adoptive parents. And like Kim said, if you want to do something toward your adoption tonight, you are more than welcome to fill out our free application. The QR code's there online. And I just so appreciate you joining us today for our quick fire Q&A. I hope it has been helpful. I hope you learned something that you maybe didn't know before tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again on a future webinar.